appreciation about your art from the artist. I think this is great.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions. But first,
We'll start with one, and then we'll let some other people.
Yeah, I know it is.
We'll get back to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Can I ask? First one is,
Okay.
you met a few survivors from the camp, right? So, what do you think they want to say most? And then the other one is,
I'm sorry. What do I think?
they want to say most.
What would they want to say?
Yeah.
What would they want to say?
The people from the
From their
Well, I think they would want people to know about what happened. I'll have to explain why, because there are a lot of people who, professional, this is lack of better words, professional anti-Semites, professional Jew haters, people who deny the Holocaust. There are different organizations of people who work full-time to claim the Holocaust never happened, that there were no murders of Jewish people, of Romani and Sinti, of anybody else, which I find really kind of perverse and obscene. And they don't spend time saying that other wars and other genocides didn't happen, but they focus on Jewish people, like with this this non-stop hatred that just kind of continues on century after century.
And if you have one thing, if you say like one thing we have to learn from the history.
That's a very good question. I'll say what I tell audiences in schools, whether it's like elementary, primary school age, middle school, or secondary, high school. There are injustices going on all over the world. It could be in your own community, in your town, in the city you live in. It could be in some other part of the country you live in. It could be on the other side of the world. Silence enabled the Holocaust to happen, which included that 10 million people were murdered, all told, including Russian prisoners of war, Polish Catholics, Jewish people, and Romani from all over Europe, and others. Silence enabled it to happen. Only somewhere around 98% of European Christians did anything to either help Jewish people, for example, or to help those who were trying to help people. So silence enabled that genocide to happen. So what I tell students is, don't be silent when you hear about an injustice somewhere, whether it's around the corner, across town, or 1,000 miles away, because silence enables atrocities. In my human rights art series now, I've done, I think, 8 drawings depicting victims of American gun violence, which I consider a genocide. So that's how I speak out about it. And more people, because there's more and more school shootings. And I'm so glad that this has become like a big issue now in American society. Questions? You've got a rare opportunity of a living artist. You can ask a question to.
Yeah, I can answer. So I wonder how you emotionally, like how you thought of death and like
how I deal with all this?
Yeah, how you start to struggle with your emotions. Like, you look happy, so you talk like about like this thing.
I'm happy when I'm talking to people. It's less happy when I'm isolated and alone at home.
Yeah.
As happens with people of all ages, and in particular with older people, wherever. But sometimes it's been hard, and sometimes I've spent so many years guest teaching now, but it's happened a few times where I've been doing a presentation with an audience and I would get choked up, and people are aware of that. But it's not easy. I try to balance it out in the emotional difficulty of dealing with drawing victims of hate crimes and war and genocide. That I go swim, I take walks, I bike. I get together with friends now and then. We go to a museum or whatever. So same things I would do if I wasn't doing the art. But it's not easy. It's a good question. You have a career ahead of you as a psychologist. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. I was amazed by the atmosphere of your art. Atmosphere?
Atmosphere?
The impression that I got from your art was, I was amazed by it. And I was wondering, when you start to draw your art, do you already have a vision what you want to art? What draw?
That's a good question. Sometimes yes, and sometimes sometimes no. And we'll do, like when I'm doing the big mosaic drawings, combinations, those things are, you know, like so wide and 5 feet high. They're very big. And sometimes they'll just evolve section by section with no, where I hadn't planned exactly what's going to happen next. And sometimes with other works, like in the earlier works, where I just, let's say, like this one person and a wing or two, it was kind of easier to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and that's how I'll do it. But the works got more visually complicated in later years, and sometimes, yeah, I have no idea how it's going to proceed.
Maybe a few more minutes. I have a question.
By the way, I was going to say, don't be shy. I was very shy as a child. When I was in graduate art school in the Midwest in Missouri, I was offered a chance to teach a class like art appreciation. And I was so nervous about the idea of speaking in public that I turned it down. It wasn't until years later that I did my first public speaking. It's the studies you can read on the internet about Americans in public speaking. Teachers are exempt, by the way. This is natural. They say that a considerable percentage of the population would rather go to prison. They'd rather do manual labor than be forced to do a public talk. And when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, a teacher pointed me out. I wanted to sink into the floor. She said, "Shyness can be overcome. Look at him. He was so shy." She had me like in kindergarten or 1st grade. So don't be shy. You don't have to follow my role model. Yes.
I have learned about the Japanese camp, concentration camp, but I wonder, are they the same for the Holocaust?
Like during World War II, so there's 2 different possibilities. They talk about there were the internment prison camps where, where Japanese Americans from the mainland, but not from Hawaii, were imprisoned during World War II by the United States. And there's a lot of discussion and difference of opinion about the use of the term concentration camps. In fact, I wrote an article about that was published a few months ago, and I'll give Professor Levine the
instructor.
I'll let you can all read it. Some people believe in calling those camps concentration camps. Excuse me. I call them prison camps. I didn't call them concentration camps. The concentration camps that the Nazis did from Germany and Austria, where millions of people were murdered in. And Holocaust deniers love it when the internment camps where Japanese Americans were imprisoned are called concentration camps, because there were no beatings, no medical experiments on living prisoners, no hangings, shootings, gassings, no forced starvation, slave labor, any of that. The camps were bad. They were immoral, unethical. They were a human rights travesty, but no one was being executed in them. And that's where the concentration camps that the German Nazis set up. So I prefer. So I say no. The camps are not the same at all. But there are some people, especially in the Japanese American community, who like to call, and they have some support from some Jewish people even, and I completely disagree. with that sentiment of calling those camps concentration camps. The Japanese military prisoner of war camps, where American, Australian, New Zealand, British soldiers were imprisoned, were more like concentration camps because they were, the prisoners of war were treated very brutally. That's a whole different part of history.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I also realized it, so you have some connection to some date or years, like what kind of project you keep working right now? So you have something.
Currently.
Yeah.
Working on currently?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, since last fall, I think I did eight new drawings in the Human Rights Art Series, and I'm about to start another one. There may be the gallery director here named Ken downstairs expressed interest in an exhibit for either this coming fall, like autumn, or winter, spring 2020. So I might do a show of all human rights works, maybe just one Holocaust work in the background. So the more I have done, the more he'll have to choose from, we'll see. So if you're still in school here then. Any other, yes?
So is a Jewish, after the World War II, German tried to support Jewish people? Yeah.
Say it again, sorry.
German is the
German.
apologize, yeah, apologize, and then they try to support Jewish people. Do you think, as a Jewish, do you think there is better way they can? There is more thing they can. How can I explain? Better. Can they better than now? Or the
Things improve, better.
yeah. Can they do better than now?
So I'm going to try to interpret your question. Let me know if this is what you mean. After the concentration camp, the country of Germany tried to be more supportive of Jewish people in that situation, and you're wondering if there's been any improvement?
Yeah, and then
Since- Since World War II, in Germany in particular?
It's a very kind of complicated history. Germany and Austria now, as well as a number of other countries around Europe, have had a resurgence of conservative, right-wing supporters of like old-style fascism, for example. This happened in Italy, in Austria, around Britain, the Netherlands, and so on. We have anti-immigration fervor mixed in. It's very,
So it's getting worse right now.
it's getting worse, and some newspaper writers, I read The Guardian, the British newspaper online, there are a lot of columnists like to blame this on Donald Trump, like kind of leading this drive of anti-immigration and mixed in with anti-Islamic hatred and so on. With Trump, it's also like anti-Hispanic, Mexican, Central Americans, and it's all convoluted. I don't know if you know what that word means. It's all very mixed up. The country of Germany has tried to make amends for its horrible history of World War II. In certain ways, for example, there were generations of immigrants, for example, from countries like Turkey, working in Germany for decades. They would not recognize any of these people. Their children and grandchildren born in Germany, they were not recognized as being German, and even given citizenship. That's changed, but the politics are hard, and the economy is bad. People like to use others. I call it dehumanization. You're either attacking other people to blame for your own problems. So here in the United States, you have like unemployed blue-collar workers in states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, where they did coal mining, the industries have collapsed. And Trump comes along and blames Mexicans, for example, on, they become a scapegoat, just like what Germany and Austria did in the 1930s, blaming Jewish people for Germany's defeat in World War I, like 20 years earlier or whatever. I don't know. There are some government leaders who I think are more enlightened. Like, for example, gun violence in this country. Trump just spoke to the National Rifle Association annual meeting the other day. We're not going to give up our guns. And shooting after shooting goes on. In New Zealand, there was a shooting recently at a mosque. 50 or 55 people were murdered. And the New Zealand national government has brought in legislation so that civilians cannot own these automatic weapons that are used in all these mass shootings. Why hasn't it happened here? In Britain, after there was a school shooting, I forget what year it was, if someone went into a school in Britain and shot all these students and teachers, and then they banned like civilian ownership of guns aside from like farmers. And there's been no school shootings in Britain since. In this country, we have more school shootings than ever. So, yes.
I think I'm going to have to honor what time it is.
Sure.
Just one quick question, just if that's okay.
As students leave, if you have to
Yeah.
go over, please just go ahead.
What
Thank you very much.
yeah, what advice would you give for aspiring artists? I have students who are very creative and interested in pursuing the field of art. What advice would you
Can we
give?
pause for a second? Since my class is finished now, if anybody needs to leave, I just want to give them a minute.